Welcome to the Independent Research Society Radio with Jeffrey Boyf Jr. We're having a conversation tonight. Jeffrey, have fun.
Yeah, I saw the video go live down there. All right, here we go.
We are on. Have fun, Jeffrey.
All right. Yeah, I saw the video, but I didn't hear the sound. But we're on a few different systems. But hey, that's how we perfect this thing. But glad to have everybody with us tonight. I've got everything set up in my bat cave so I can see everybody really big, and we connect different ways. You got the phones. You got nowadays. You got MySpace, or not MySpace, Facebook, FaceTime, all the way to Skype. But that's the thing we have in common now. We've really made being in the same place, just like every morning. Kathleen Fitzgerald, who's going to be on in a little while, is in Oregon, and she drives over into Washington, the Columbia River. She crosses every day and drives and does her video. And I'm down here in Louisiana. Hey, there's my mom, Kathy Nato. Had to give her a shout. Oh, and my photographer and my best friend, Josh Britton. It's his birthday today. Just had to say that because he was doing stuff for me today, even though it's his birthday. And Cheryl Lynn Young. Everybody's starting to pop in, so we'll give them a few minutes like we usually do. But usually when we start a show, people are already there. But now Facebook it's starting to change. But now time has become what's relevant as a dimension and not where you're at on the planet. And that's kind of some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, like the laws that have been written, like for the past 8 years. We finally had Elon Musk, who was smart enough to what's called a short trader, and some call it naked trader, or short trader, and they make money on companies failing. Well, they've been doing this ever since the early 1900s. There were actually electric cars before there were petrol cars. But getting up there, having to wind the car up and things like that, the electric starter is what changed the petrol ignition thing. But you've had more pardons written for SEC, and if you don't know what that is, that's the Security Exchange Commission at Wall Street. And even during Occupy Wall Street, during Obama, they were not educating themselves enough to know that he was writing pardons almost on a daily basis before the crimes even happened. And that's how we've kept things like hydrogen technology. Hydrogen cells were deemed dangerous first. Well, Elon Musk, whenever they did the Tesla cars, they went and got the black box. He said, I want the black box out of the car. It records the data, just like a data flight recorder. And he went and got it, and they found out that the guy's driving it in, the 100-degree heat for, 200 miles straight with the windows down and 120 miles an hour, and just completely trashed the thing and then gave it a bad write-up. Then they buy stock in it, millions of shares that don't exist. Then they hire a company to write something bad about it. And when it goes from $20 down to $2, that's because they just sold off the stock, and now you just killed the technology. And that's how it's gone for all the technology. Right now we could replace magnets and all of the nuclear sites, and every industry is so poisonous. I've been in Komatsu with metallurgy. I've been in Trinidad Oil with them, and all they wanted you to do is pH balance poison so they could dump it into the water. And it just, things like that, and it just seems like the logic is backward. And people need to think before they start standing behind someone chanting. They need to educate themselves on something that the Independent Research Society is about. It's about knowing what's outside and about connecting with other people. And it's like I listen to Kathleen and I look at the sky, what's happening over in Oregon that day. Hey, what's up, Lee Common? And hey, that's somebody new in our group. Welcome to the group. But I look at the skies over there and I see what they're doing compared to here. Like I noticed during the time at China Lake that instantly the sky changed. Here it did. And I moved out of what I call DARPA Town, and I'll just keep that name of the city. It's somewhere in Bossier Parish, but I'll stay away from there now. But now that I'm out of that dome of lights that you get when you're close to a big city, you can see, because the base is in the town, DARPA's in the town, General Dynamics, they're all together. You can see that stuff happening over there whenever you're outside of it, and I've learned that over the past few years. But now we're underneath the same time, but technology is connecting us. But right now, I'm looking at Tesla's face on the wall of Independent Research Society, and he was driving around J.P. Morgan and Ford around his compound in Colorado Springs, and they're like, well, what are you fueling your car with after they had gone through the whole drive? Well, he had a little antenna on the corner of his car, and just pretend you're going around a track. Well, every time you get a quarter of the way around, you pass another antenna, and it charges his car up. But now we find out that this is the same way as the pyramids work, and that's what I'm working on right now in the big scope. And hopefully I will be able to get overseas sooner than later and do some of these things in person, because I think firing up a few of these pyramids and seeing what they do, not just how they work or what makes them work, I think that'll open some eyes, and I think that'll stop some people dead in their tracks enough to know it'll take something like that. But like the Bosnian beam equation, I figured that out, and it's basically the same premise as taking a copper top and burying the copper top face down in the sand, and the negative part of it's a lightning rod bringing down the positively charged ionosphere. We live in an energy-based universe, an electric plasma universe, but we're having to pay for energy, and that's what most of our money goes to. Even every bit of plastic around you, every styrofoam cup, everything. But I'm down here in toxic Louisiana, to where they have said in certain parishes you can't swim, and if you watch Earth Files with Linda Moulton Howe, her weekly broadcast, all over the country, in every single state, they have places that, because of the blue-green algae and different things, you can't swim in certain places. But here, now it's gotten to where complete parishes, it's not safe to drink the water, it's not safe to bathe in it, they say. They say now not to even swim in it. And that's just gotten ridiculous. Because 100 years ago, you could drink the water from coast to coast out in the wild. And I remember 1984, 1985, up in the mountains when I was in 4th or 5th grade, drinking water just right out of the stream or right out of rocks that had a little divot or a curve in the top of them. Things like that. We climbed Mount Ramshorn in Estes Park, and we dropped our water one time, and we just drank the water right out of the top of the rock. There were some huge boulders on top, and we can't do that anymore. When it rains, those raindrops collect a bunch of garbage. But tonight we're going to have Kathleen Fitzgerald on, and she might have a guest person on, but I don't know if she's going to or not. But she is up, and I know she's in the Columbia River Gorge, because I talk to her and see her from there every morning. But she is in Oregon, and she was on previously reporting to us from the fire. That's where we got that epic picture of the best banner ever made it looks like a superhero. She's got her pink gas mask on in her car, driving through the smoke, and I thought that was awesome. We tried to do a good show from there, but if you're not on a good network, then that's going to be an impossibility, But we still did the best we could with what we had. But if not anything else, the most epic banner ever came out of that. I still use it all the time. But is Kathleen with us, or do you have to call her, bring her in? Kathleen, you with us?
Kathleen should be here. Let me check.
Barely here. Somewhere, I think.
Kathleen, are you there?
I think you might have to call her regular phone number from Skype. She texted her a regular phone number.
Yes, I will be calling her in a second. If she's probably listening off of Facebook, I believe.
Yeah, well, I could hear her voice, but I think it was coming through some other equipment.
So I'll redial her real quick.
But hey, everything's getting fine. I'm glad to just be able to talk to you guys now. I can ask a question, and Daryl and Katie are right there, and I don't have to be going, please, it's been an hour and 29 minutes. Could you please put my show on?
All right. Kathleen is here. Odin is here.
1710 is not.
Oh my God. Hold on. Let's see. Let's try it again.
What was that?
I don't know. It sounded weird to me.
To an automatic voice message system.
Voicemail. Well, hopefully she'll... Oh, okay. Is Kathleen in Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
Good. I got a number. I'm contacting
That's
her.
her.
Yes, I'm contacting her right now for you.
She is in Portland. Portlandia.
Oh, Portlandia.
And everybody, just enjoy the entertaining chaos. It's fun.
You know what I feel?
We always get it figured out.
You know something? We get it together
We're the
real
ones
quick.
developing this technology.
Hey, you know something? They gave it to us. Now we have to fight for it, huh?
It's been forwarded to an automatic.
Maybe I should contact her on... Hold on. I know what I can do. Let me try this for you, Jeffrey, because I know you want this guest. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, you're listening to us on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And yes, we are streaming. And yes, this is live, believe it or not. And Jeffrey just went off air for a second. So let's see if we can pull Jeffrey back on air, because answering his phone jumped us to another line. 1 second. Jeffrey, when you get a chance, give me a call. Yeah. I guess Jeffrey's on another call right now. He'll call me back in a second. I just want to inform everyone that, it is a crisis that we're having at this time. There are a lot of, how should I say, unmeasurable things occurring, and these things are really becoming destructive to the planet, not just our children, not just look at the human race as ants, basically, when it comes to this planet. And if you have any, what? Okay. Sorry, I was trying to get in touch with Jeffrey again, and I thought it would work. One brief second. And he seems to not be picking up. It's okay. We are here. We're trying to do the maiden voyage. And Jeffrey, would you please call so we can get back on air?
New York,
Back,
you have
Jeffrey.
Louisiana, and it really and it really does. It looks like you're looking at the same thing, and I see the skies that you're looking at, and other than the smoke, when you guys have the fires out there, it looks like the same thing here. But it's amazing that just driving 70 miles away from what I call DARPA town, how different the skies are. Here we have cumulonimbus clouds, the stratus clouds that we learned when we were kids, and there you had like it looked like frozen cirrus clouds, like those strips that you were showing that were parallel and then they fanned out into a wall. And that looks like frozen cirrus clouds that are supposed to be at like 90,000 feet.
So what's going on, Jeffrey? Hello, Jeff.
Can you see me?
There you are.
A lot of times we'll see the cloud-like formations, artificial created weather patterns, very slowly traveling over the land.
Yeah.
The clouds then gas off, and then very soft
Should I? It's a deep sight. And like whenever I call you, it says, would you like to leave this site?
They're gassing off and just burning, nano, aluminum, and different types of things. And from my understanding, the nanotechnology is still programmable.
Yeah.
Components, the nanoparticulate components associated with artificial intelligence and that sort of thing. They don't burn. They're really fairly indestructible. So we are all affected with what's gassing off
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that stuff will just move very slowly or not resolve in the sky. And it's a great way, and I hate to say it like this, folks, everyone's hearing, that this is a great way to apply a large, concentrated application of chemicals.
Yeah.
Particularly the nanotechnology components, very small micro.
Exactly. And what people don't think about is like as a metallurgist, and not even that, as someone who's microwaved food in your oven, like I had to worry about this every day at work, but when you hear about them dropping aluminum and barium, you're going to see certain, if they're dropping something, just like something that's on fire, you drop it out of a plane, you're going to see a smoke trail for a little while, and then it's going to break up, and you're not going to see a trail anymore, and then it's going to be everywhere. But I noticed night and day between the China Lake thing, and somebody said it wasn't anomalous, I was like, it's 0.6 miles deep, and you had 10 earthquakes in a row that got bigger by a power of 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 bigger, because that's how the scale goes. 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, all the way to 7.2 or 7.4. And but if you think about it, imagine your body, and you've been drinking regular water, and now somebody blasts you with a microwave from 30,000 feet, a directed energy weapon, or put you in a microwave oven. Well, now think about if you just drank that same amount of water, but it contained 10% aluminum. Think about how much damage it would cause to your body. It's the difference in putting a bowl in a microwave that's microwavable and one that's not. The walls of it don't burn up, but the food inside does. And what they're doing is they're taking that material and they're putting it inside of you. But it's not just affectable by heat and things like that. It's what you barely mentioned for a second was about the programmable part of it, and that's where you come into Kindred Corporation, Geordie Rose, and anytime somebody uses the phrase tsunami of demons, or it's like being at the altar of an alien god, people like that shouldn't have control of hundreds of billions of dollars and our lives in their hands. And that's insanity. That sounds like a comic book or something, And
Well, now, let me just intercept.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is that the people that count are like Bill Gates, we've got Elon Musk, we have these others. This generation got Hillary Clinton, Obama, all
the Apple people.
Yeah, they are what I call Satan's supersedes.
Absolutely.
They're really programmed and indoctrinated this generation, and they've been breeded and seeded. They've been bred and given, seeded, like clothes, given everything. Because they've already been trained. They already know that they're not returned. They will always fight for the dark side, and they're given lots of opportunities. And so these people are given the opportunity to be there. The dark side will not be there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But you know what? And that really brings something to my mind. Say it was General Motors. People would really be asking why General Motors, like they are now, like with Trump, they're asking, why is General Motors in China? Why is it in Mexico? Why is it in all these countries? But it is a fact that Steve Jobs and those guys have poisoned every city, like the one I just moved from. I guarantee you, and I've told people this before, I heard them at the travel center, which is on your way to Poverty Point. They're like, Aaron Brockovich was on the news talking about Bossier City and talking about the Sligo pump station and Houghton, and I was like, listen to me. If you do not want Aaron Brockovich talking about you, if she's talking about you and no one in your neighborhood is, it's probably already too late for you. But if you go look at every city that Apple has been in China, they have been poisoned, and just like when I was at the Komatsu Corporation, which is Japanese, I had a Romanian foreman at a Japanese company, and out of 13 people, I was the only person who could read English. So they didn't even realize that the things around them were poisonous. And by me telling them that, I figured that I better make a video of myself for a future reference for future work, or I was going to find myself floating down one of these mini bayous. And they have. These companies have poisoned the earth. They really have in every state and in all the countries, and they're doing it worse outside of the United States. And they like to say that we're the ones who have a heart or whatever. Okay, well, you know what? Not if you look at it from, I call it the technocratic oligarchy, and you should know that phrase right there, being from Portland, right there with Clyde Lewis. You know, that's the perfect description, the technocratic oligarchy. And that's the people you have.
Those are all great points. You know, the first home weapon, I think, that was part of this military, directed energy weapons system, this military deployment system, which is less a 5-piece part of it. It's not like a whole microwave. That was the first device that was given to the public to cook their food, which is literally destroying everything that really values whatsoever. So, emitting your rays into your home. But just, keeps going on and on through what we got, and being very, very sad because they are accumulating not only radiation but heavy metals. They're still eating the modified foods and leaves, they're doing basically the best they can. A lot of people who are ready to harvest. I say that fairly confident because I listened to all the experience and I listened to various books. And I'm looking around and people going around very effective, having a time. Quite a few days, young group of people are in disco, like
Yeah.
we're all very overweight. And the model of management happening with those genes, there's a line on the right, again, you don't notice it when you go back around and look at the genes from the back. You can tell that these are big girls. So managers have gotten bigger, and every picture in there has no pictures in their genes, their clothes. And, for the mark, the girl, the young girl, the champ, and she looks back, she's got this big, really overweight, but, and he's smiling, and it's like, just off the side, trying to use it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, what? So the genetically modified organisms people eating are in conjunction with this reference deployment system.
Oh, yeah, great point.
Now what we've got is overload of computers, cell phone transmitters, cell phone devices.
Yeah.
Cell phone devices.
Unneeded at that.
This is the handheld time.
And they're unneeded because not one of us has 4G turned all the way up yet. There's not one house I used to install. No one has 4G to its full capacity. You can ask anyone who installs it. And you were talking about like, can you hear me? The people being poisoned by things. Well, I remember going out to football practice. It was 1984. Sylvan Rose in third grade. I got there late. My stepmom was a teacher in elementary school, so it took me a little longer to get to football practice than it did the other kids. So I get out there and they're like, and my coach was an ex-captain in chief on the fire department. So all the kids already know this. So I got out there and they're like, because I'm Jeff Jr. They're like, your dad blew up, in a fire. When I got there, it was the first thing they told me is my dad blew up. And I was like, okay. But actually what had happened was Dixie Cold Storage. There's actually a book called Up from the Ashes written by Pat Johnson. And if you look at the Percy Johnson Foundation, it's on the counters like at Circle K's and at All's Ups and some of those stores. Well, he's the one who pulled Percy Johnson out. But they told him there that it was CO2 and it was actually ammonia. And so whenever they went and lifted him up, Pat Johnson and Percy Johnson lifted him up on the forklift to get, and this is inside the fire, to turn off the pipe. The forklift hit the wall and sparked and blew the entire place up. And so it threw my dad 30 feet out the door. But even after that, there was another event at LSUS Medical Center, LSUS Health Science Center here in Shreveport, and a transformer caught on fire. Well, now this transformer was supposed to be changed out back in 1976, and so it was well beyond its day. Well, there were 13 firemen that showed up for the fire, and I believe 11 of them have died already. And it was because it had asbestos and it had other things that were making it release poisonous PCBs. And so even though the hospital knew that it had not been changed out, they didn't tell the first responders who were there, and they absorbed so many PCBs that out of 13 firefighters or 12 firefighters, 11 of them are gone. And what they did is they drugged the benefits or the lawsuit. They drug it out so long on purpose. That shows you how great of hearts they have. They drug it out long enough for everyone to die of cancer first. And when I watched that happen over my life and had to go visit my own dad in the hospital with cancer treatment, it'll change your views on trusting people. And some people think that there's automatics, like the fire department, police department, or the hospital, or the school, that you should automatically trust them. That's when I automatically didn't trust them, and that's when I started learning things. I started learning that what the history that I learned in school wasn't even close to right. And that's when I started making discoveries of other things. But there are no automatic trust anymore. They sat there and knew that because that's an old hospital. They knew that those transformers were supposed to be taken out. They knew that was the only thing left in the place that wasn't changed out. And they sat there and watched the firefighters getting cancer, knowing it, and let it happen anyway. But that happens in so many situations, from jet fuel to you name it. It happens in so many industries. Like when I was working in the oil industry, they had me working lab van, and they try to they call it lab van to make it like it's not like you're working in a laboratory. And my only job was to pH balance the poison they were dumping in the water to 7.0 because acceptable drinking water is between 6.5 to 8.5. If you have exactly 7.0 pH drinking water, that means you're either drinking like detergent you wash your clothes with, or somebody has tampered with your drinking water. But you can put litmus paper in your test, and that's what they were doing. They were hiding the poison instead of not poisoning us. Instead of taking that money and using it oxygen based, and I even have friends that sell it, and they brought me on. We're to sell. One was Oxy 318, and one was Hydrogen 318. We were going to sell it, and instead of them paying the money for that material, and they would have gotten a tax break big enough that it would have paid for itself, they continued to use the same horrible materials, but this time that oil rig was 1 mile from my house, and we had to cap off our drinking well. And that's when they put us on that pump that Aaron Brockett was just talking about. But there's no automatic believing anybody anymore. I mean, Catholic priest, who's automatic anymore, you know? That's why you gotta look into everything.
Yeah, you know, when you were talking, I was thinking about the vaccine damage community. It's growing and growing. And these are people, good people that thought the lie and trusted their doctors, and they can go through drug administration and all those 3 letters that are supposed to be in charge of protecting the public. Well, we've all been taken over by China. We tried a lot of cross intentions going on in our government. And we just need to all get back on track and start exercising our constitutional rights for sure. But the one thing that's going to happen
Learning them.
enough of these parents, or grandparents, and people are going to, learn the hard way that they can't trust their doctors and pharmaceutical companies, sort of putting out these vaccines, to be safe to them. And there's so much damage occurring before they, it gets put to a stop. I just want to put my heart out to people that are sacrificing themselves. And that's how I feel. I feel like everybody chooses their experience one way or the other, these soul contracts. And there's a lot of people out there experiencing this horrific scenario. It's perpetrated on purpose. It's all by design. Vaccinations are a precursor to Morgellons and different types of autoimmune disorders, and all connected. Just like the stuff you're talking about. We should say no to vaccines and stuff like that. Maybe right, but we can't say no to the air we breathe. So that's why they're spraying this stuff in the air. They use a blanket on the globe with all these sensor devices, these different chemicals and different things. But they're also the whole ozone hazard and drowning out people and devastating crops and flooding and the West. A lot going on in here. There's cloud seeding, harvest.
Ever since Vietnam, before.
Harvest the thunderclouds, get the moisture and hold off, and somebody's buying that rain from these thunderclouds that form around the big mountains around here that fire. But you're right, we have to be very discerning. We have to stay connected to that prime creator source and try to find like-minded people or talk about these issues, because ultimately our bodies, our souls are a commodity. We have to become more in charge, like you're doing, very self-sufficient out your, outside the city limits. It's what they want to do. And this is just to let you know, folks, this is all out there. Don't take my word for it. Really their intention is to eventually possibly cut the grid of electricity off and out of the country, the rural areas, and drive people to the cities for services. And then there would have them, they will be experiment even more on them as they they get more and more nanotechnology inside the person's components. Computer does.
And now they have the voice to skull technology. They can directly talk to you.
They have so much. People in New York understand that there's 18 towers put in New York City in strategic places. They're big towers. And there's some military fiber optics, different things in the bottom. They all have the ability to put out frequencies for crowd control. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, that you know they haven't released the test results on what happened with those waves on the animals that they tried it on, because I've seen it and they keep it separate from the actual event. You know, those mice come out to be 4 times their size because they're covered in tumors, you know, and they keep that separately. But what I had a problem with is, like, okay, we find out for years everybody says we're crazy, there's no such thing as chemtrails, it's only contrails, and then they say, okay, well, we didn't know they were doping our, there's 100 low lead for little private planes, and then there's Jet A. And then we find out that there was a guy called Bluebird 1. He was the first one to really drop the bomb on it and say, here's the wing of my airplane. It has 3 nozzles on each side. And there's that video of that one plane behind the big jet watching it spray and spray and spray. And then, but after it's found out, nothing is done about it. It's like, what do those guys say that, I mean, I would, if it were me spraying, I would expect to have to answer for it and say, well, I was told that I was spraying fertilizer, or that I was spraying something to heal the ozone layer, or something. But no one ever has, the past 10 years, no one's had to answer for anything. And it really has become that way. And then you see the water, and from British Petroleum, the best thing we got out of it was the movie Deepwater Horizon with Mark Wahlberg, you know. And what drives me crazy is, how come every movie about 9/11, about the Boston Marathon, about Deepwater Horizon, all stars Mark Wahlberg? You know, I'm like, I'm starting to think that guy is the CIA's actor. You know, he's getting money for it or something, because he happens to be in every single one of those movies. You know, from the Boston Marathon all the way down to 9/11 to Deepwater Horizon. But most people don't know around the country, and this is what they did. For one, the biggest brackish water in the world, the biggest ecosystems in the world are near China. They have a brackish system right there, and it's pretty bad off poisoned over the years, and a lot of it by Apple. And in the Gulf of Mexico, which made it the biggest brackish, just like in Forrest Gump, the biggest brackish ecosystem in the world. And British Petroleum, which is Monsanto Bayer, between the election of Donald Trump and between the inauguration, everybody was going so crazy that they didn't pay attention that Obama and John Kerry and Hillary and everybody and the Pope and everybody headed down to Antarctica for some reason. They didn't pay attention to that. But that's the little window where they dropped everything in at. And it's just this big political sleight of hand thing, and it's like people are willing to fall for it. It's like they want to fall for it so they can continue to say that what they believe is right. But if you drop a bunch of poison in the water in the Gulf of Mexico, the Louisiana coastline is not like a beach. It goes 150 miles in. It goes a third of the way through the state, and Deepwater Horizon is owned by British Petroleum, but you have this racket, and that's exactly what it is, because the same people who own the vaccines, who caused the opium epidemic, and who own the petroleum, and who own the cure medications are all the same company, because now BP, which is the Windsor family, their real name is the Saxon von Gottbergs. They're actually German, so it was Germany versus Germany back then. But how can Monsanto own Bayer? That's like, the Jesus Satan Corporation, that blows my mind completely.
Well, you mean, Bayer owns Monsanto.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I got one thing to say about that, about the Monsanto Bayer thing. They did a little research, and they don't really care if they get sued. They have some money set aside.
Oh.
Millions of dollars.
The richest in the world.
They've got a backup on Roundup, so they've got another product that they've been using for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they call it the Liberty Link. And then it's patented. And they have Liberty Link cord. And it's a whole series system. It's a digital farming system.
It's to keep you off the Richard Seed Company, which is the last seed company that doesn't sell Monsanto seeds.
Yeah. So that's real important. What's happened with the flooding. And this is just a theory. Some people do this. I'm not saying I totally believe it because it's known, but the flooding in the Midwest is designed to flush out and break down the small farmers around on the outer skirts, the more rural farmers, the small farmers, and they're really wanting everybody to jump on this digital farming, just this food source, this food system, the Liberty Link food system management. Is what they want for us. But the problem with the Liberty Link, if it's claim to fame, is that it's a sterilizes the populations that are eating it. They should have spurred all of the problems. Hopefully to sterilize person through their food. So that's what Liberty Link is. And that's all they're about. And they're all using that system. While Monsanto and glyphosate, Roundup, they pushed out, they don't care. They're already on board. This upgrade for digital farming, they don't care. They just want the more they flush out that Monsanto, glyphosate, issue is just going to go away. And, while everything comes to the rescue.
And you saw everybody in the country and everybody in the world was watching those 5 hurricanes like right in a row, and it's happened twice. Last time was with Jose, and between Cuba and the United States, what is it, like 23 miles or something like that. But the second that Trump signed on, we get hit with one hurricane, Louisiana and Florida, after another, and then when Jose was there right at the edge of Cuba and it's already basically destroyed it, they said, okay, we'll put $10 million in. $10 million to them is like 40 cents to us. It's nothing. And it's just agreeing to sign back on to the European Union, to the New World Order thing. But that's the only time, and in being a pilot, you have to understand weather, and you have to become your own weatherman and trust yourself. Otherwise, you're watching TV and you're going to take your family up in the air. So you gotta figure it out, because the weather's different at 30,000 feet as it is at 10,000 feet. So you start learning about it. But what people don't understand is when the big thing happened with the oil rig down in the Gulf of Mexico, you had families like the Landry family, and these are the names that you see in your grocery stores, like of the seafoods and the Bubba Gumps and all these. Well, these places were like, the British Petroleum came to them and said, okay, here's $2,200 to move your family out and to move into an apartment somewhere. And they're like, wait a minute, we've been here for 5 generations. We've been here longer than the United States is old. Louisiana is much older than the United States. We were here doing seafood 100 years before the United States was a country, and you're trying to give us $2,200 to move us, our 5 kids, my son and his wife and his kids who all work for us, and you want us to all take $2,000 and move away and forget the building by itself that it costs $5 million over time, and forget the revenue that was lost. But eventually, when you start starving, you'll sign it. But it comes with something. It's called a gag order. And that's why you've heard nothing of the devastation down there. And it's the same thing with Katrina. When you take insurance money down there, you made to sign a gag order and a refusal to ever be able to sue in the future for it. And people don't realize that that's being done, and it's heartbreaking to watch. And those companies that have been around as long as the coolest things, I mean, that's just, we're talking about Tabasco sauce, Avery Island. That was saved only because the entire country would notice, because it's that common. And they were an exception, and they've gotten big enough to where, you know, a lot of their ownership is elsewhere because of Wall Street. But you have all these people. I mean, just imagine you and your family living down there without a $5 million, $10 million a year business. And, you know, that sounds big, but when you have 5 families living off that have grown around that for 275 years, it's not that much. You know, it's like people have, it's kind of like it takes a village to raise a child. That's kind of how it is down there. And people still have the village type thing, and that's really, when people want fish to cook down there, they don't go to the grocery store. They go to the little hut down the street. You know, when people want steaks, they go to the place down the road. When they want this or that, and it's kind of the same way here. But now all of those vegetable markets and stuff have moved to North Louisiana, and that's because South Louisiana got so poisoned. But now those companies have moved up here too. And so now I'm telling you, Louisiana is the area in the coal mine, and everybody needs to watch Louisiana, realize that whatever happens here is going to happen in their state next if they don't stop it and they don't recognize it.
What poison
Oil. Whenever the Deepwater Horizon rig blew up, it dumped millions of gallons of crude oil, and then they have this type of algae that eats oil because it separates from water, and so it makes this foam kind of stuff whenever they mix it together. And it's made so they can mix it together, and it turns into this foamy type stuff. And then they use a big net with towboats with a rope behind it to rope it all together and kind of scrape it off the top of the water. But pure life in the ocean underneath that, taking what's off the surface and making it look and appear.
Wow, we must be having that strong technical difficulties going on there in the wonderful state of Louisiana where Jeffrey's at. Um, wow, this is a interesting conversation. You know, I think about life a lot, and you know, mishaps happen. We all do. We know what's going on there. We live the life, but when you have other companies and people giving you those same devastating instructions on how to control, rule, and manipulate your own life, that's where we have problems. That's where we are struggling at. And then to add to it, pharmaceutical agencies. And we got DARPA and we got other things. Lord, what's really going on? This is the Independent Research Society Radio. And of course, this is on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. Yes, there are technical difficulties going on currently at this moment, but hopefully we can get Jeffrey back real soon. Let me try to recall him. And we are just amazed at the knowledge that should have been occurring in this world today. Let me see what's going on the other side with Jeffrey. Because my man, he's struggling hard, trying to keep everything alive. And now they drop him with weather. And now they dropping him with other disturbances. I don't understand. Do they just not want the information out? What is really going on in this world? Well, that's why we got Jeffrey Boyf Jr., Independent Research Society, on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. That's why we have him here, because we want the information. And what do? They block them. They turn them off. They shut them down. They send weather that direction. They do the same thing to Gary Legier, Gary the Mad Martian, who's up next at midnight on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And his show, The Martian Revelation, will be interesting. Tonight's guest is the one and only Andrew Bashago. Yes, the man that got hit by the energy weapon, the good friend of my brother, Alfred Lamont Weber. I want to give shouts outs to Brad Olson's father. Yes, Mr. Olson and the family. They're having a good time. He's getting that big old birthday today. We ain't going to say age no more. We're going to say a number. He only 28. That's right. He 28. And he's built to stay that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I get back to trying to get my buddy and good friend Jeffrey Boyf Jr. on, I hope and pray that you people can understand that I got to play a song. Good God, I got to play this song. This song's in my head. You know something? This might be coming account with the Neelys if you don't watch out. Because, you know, Katie is here. And you know, there's a song that sits in my head. quite a lot. And it's a song that my buddy, the Mad Martian, brought to me and put in my life. It's a real song. I'm going to play that for you until Jeffrey gets back. And you're live on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. And I want you to enjoy and stay tuned for September's great shows. Hey, you're finally back. We were doing a commercial break since you were offline.
What? Oh, we were sitting here talking. That's no big deal. I didn't know we were off.
Oh my God. Well, you were off. But you can continue talking. We still have some time.
Yeah, I never got a message. I never got a message or anything. And I was like looking at 3 monitors, and I was like, yeah, I never saw anything. It just said you missed a call from Daryl, and I hit call back.
Well, you know, it's all good. No problem. Let's continue the show.
But if you went back in, just like put all Metallica. What was the last thing we were talking about? Do you remember?
Yeah. You want me to give her a call?
Yeah. Oh, she's not on here anymore? Shit. I don't know. What was the last thing? Damn. Can we just do the outro thing? I don't think she wants to talk anymore. I don't know.
Hold on.
We can
Hold
call her
on.
back.
Let me
But
drop.
I don't know what we talked about